Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Coach Thompson, and we're going to talk a little bit further today about the federal bureaucracy. And what many people notice, and you'll look at this slide, is that the federal bureaucracy is really not as large as you might think it is. At present, about 2.5 million employees who have responsibility for administering literally thousands of federal programs. The President and Congress get far more attention in the news, but the federal bureaucracy has a more direct impact on Americans' everyday lives. Because when you stop and think about it, the bureaucracy basically is responsible for the day-to-day interaction with the American people. If you think about it, when you have a problem with a Social Security tax or something like that, well, you're going to call someone in this bureaucracy who's then going to solve your problem. You're not going to call the President or Congress, or at least not initially you're not, and they're not going to work on the day-to-day operations of getting you your Social Security check. So the bureaucracy oftentimes is involved in direct interaction with helping people get the things they want and solve their problems. As you can see from the cartoon, one of the things about bureaucracy that often is troubling for the average American citizen is the amount of paperwork and the amount of what they call red tape that would be involved in dealing with the bureaucracy. So if you look here, you'll see that the number of civilian employees initially was very small, and then as we expanded federal programs in the 1930s, this in turn became a situation in which the bureaucracy begins to grow, the number of federal employees begin to grow, and it becomes a pretty high rise between 30 and the 50s in conjunction with the amount of federal programs being administered. Of course, here you can look at the New Deal and FDR, and this is one of the contributing factors. If you look on the table, you'll notice next to Uncle Sam, you'll notice all the various programs that were initiated through the New Deal, and you'll notice how Congress is basically kind of a wife that's compliant to what the President wants, and so this exemplifies the growth of federal programs and therefore the growth of number of agencies administering them, which leads to your growth in bureaucracy. And so here we see an example of the cash cow, if you will. So you're looking at this and you're looking at Lyndon Johnson, and so what's going on here? Well, we've got, it says plenty of money in this cash cow for education, etc., etc. Almost a apportionment of the cash cow and for the various federal programs and where the money goes and who gets the money supplied to it. The number of federal employees has not really changed markedly until the 1960s. This fact is a little bit deceiving because, as with many other industries in our economy in the United States, the federal government has increasingly gone to outsourcing or contracting work to privately owned firms, which is beneficial in that it creates an industry for privately owned firms to get business, but it also takes some of the oversight, some of the control, if you will, from the bureaucracy out of their hands because they have private institutions doing this. And also, it's important to understand that the U.S. Armed Forces many times operated their own food services. So if you went on to a naval base, or if you went on to a Marine base or an Army base, a lot of times what would happen is that you would go to what they call an exchange, or like small grocery stores they call shopettes, things like that, and the service members can actually shop on base. And so the armed forces actually operated these food services. And what many people don't know is that some of these food service operations, such as the grocery stores, they charge a very low price to the service members, and the money actually goes back into the bases for things like bowling alleys, movie theaters, etc. So the armed forces do, even to this day, still operate some of these deals, but they often do it together. Something called Army Air Force Exchange. There's actually one in Fort Worth that manages a lot of these food services for all the naval, air, marine, military bases throughout the world. So that is an example of something that the armed forces do on their own. If you look, and if you look here, you'll notice that government payroll as a percentage of civilian non-institutional population is pretty much held kind of standard. You can see in the red is the federal, the state, and then you'll notice local. So on the left, the percent of the civilian non-institutional population, less than 10%. And if you look at the bottom over time, you'll notice that basically it's held steady, and so that is what we're looking at there.